Here are the stories as well so that you have them. I'll use the one on my laptop.
Okay.
In fact, it's
Great stuff.
I know, I've been noticed. I'm going to put it on here now.
Best radio
Talking
program.
about
March 19th.
Smooth. 98.1.
It's kind of like our work to I just remembered now after she told me that you were with Sarah. So.
Alright, we're going in. Good morning, Lagos. You're tuning and listening to Smooth 98.1 because it is a Wednesday. You are welcome into a Lagos Talks 981 special. It's particularly special because I stalked these people online, got their details, and eventually we got them to come in to hang out with us today. In the studio with us to discuss the role of civil rights groups or rather civil rights bodies and the importance of holding the government accountable in office. Joining us, we have the Deputy Director of SERAP, Mr. Timothy Adewale. There you go. Good morning, Mr. Timothy. How are you?
Yeah, good morning. I'm fine.
It is fantastic having you here in the studio with us. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much.
All right. Also joining us, we have one of our usual suspects during Freshly Pressed. Ikemesit. He decided to sneak in here as well. Good morning once more, Ikemesit.
Yeah, you didn't have to stalk me. Good morning.
No, I didn't. Not this time, but
Yeah.
then you'll travel away again and we have to start again. But Lagos, it's a very important conversation we're going to have right now. It's about the role that we play as citizens in holding our governments accountable, in making sure that things are done in a way that is beneficial to us long term. And SERAP has been one of the bodies most active in this regard most recently, and we're going to be taking a look at a number of issues they currently have, whether it's in court one way or another, or addressing international bodies and asking them to step in. The first of which we'll be talking about is a story that dates back to January of this year. It's about the 40 billion naira court affirming SERAP's right to stop double pay and pensions for Akabio, Michi, Saraki, and others. And I'm going to let Valentine just give us a few of the details from the story before, of course, we hear from you, Mr. Timothy, just to see what your take is on all of this. And Lagos, don't forget the phone lines are open, so you can call in and contribute. Call us up on 01448991. We're also streaming live on YouTube as well, so you can chat live there.
This story from Vanguard is dated January 21st, 2018. It says the headline, 40 billion naira court affirms SERAP's rights to stop double pay pensions for Akpabio, Amechi, Saraki, others. So the Federal High Court in Lagos has ruled that Socio-Economic Rights and Accountability Project SERAP has sufficient interest to bring its suit to stop former governors and now serving senators and ministers from receiving double pay and life pensions, and to seek public funds unduly received by these public officers. Justice Oluremi Oguntoyinbo, who stated this at that Friday, just around January 21st, while granting leave in the suit number FHC 1497 LLLCS 1497.
That's okay. That's the file number. You don't need that.
It's filed last year by SERAP to compel the Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice, Mr. Abubakar Malami San, to challenge the legality of states' laws that allow former governors who are now senators and ministers to enjoy governors' emoluments while drawing normal salaries and allowances in their new political offices. I'm very eager to jump to the part where
just look at some of the states.
You know, the amount that is accruing to these governors is really mind-boggling in Lagos. So when we look at Akwa Ibom, for instance, now the state laws provide for 200 million naira annual pay to ex-governors, deputies, pension for life, a new official car and utility vehicle every 4 years that's replaceable, one personal aid on provision of adequate security, a cook, chauffeurs, security guards for the governor at a sum not exceeding 5 million naira per month, and 2.5 million naira for the deputy governor, free medical services. We go to, let's look at Kano State, for instance, now, and some other. There are so many states, so much money allotted to these governors.
Timothy, just so, first of all, welcome. Thank you for coming. What's your take on some of these things and why SERAP decided to get involved and challenge this? And had anyone been doing that before SERAP?
I'm sure we all agree that what you've read is actually unconscionable. You know, considering the fact that we have states that are unable to pay their workers. We have states that pensioners are just done anyhow, simply because the states have refused to pay them. So if you have states where these things I've mentioned are happening, and at the same time you also have this bogus pay for these governors, then for these ex-governors, there's no doubt, I'm sure we'll agree that these things are just unconscionable, and we cannot continue to fold our hands to let these things be. So that's why we felt this needs to be challenged, and that was basically the reason why we went to court.
All right. Okay. We already have phone calls coming in, so let's just see if we can go to the phone line straight away and see what some of our people out there have to say. Hello. Good morning. Good morning, Mr. Sam. How are you? Mm.
Mm. Thank you,
All right,
Mr.
Mr. Sam. Thank you. So Timothy, we have a situation where in this country we're used to crying out, we're used to complaining. But I mean, how did SERAP come about to be able to take such proactive steps? And what would you say to people out there who are listening, who are trying to figure out how do we get our government to be more responsible to listen? Because Mr. Sam said when this happened, when Akwa Ibom took this decision, he was upset. He called in to the radio stations, he sent messages, but it carried on.
Much more.
This and I think why SERAP got interested and why a lot of Nigerians are really peeved at this is that when you think about the average elite, especially someone who's a governor, you're thinking this person has access to multiple streams of income. You're looking at a situation where as a sitting governor you probably have put yourself in a situation where you've arranged or reordered contracts and other arrangements in such a way that you've taken care of your business interests. Almost every Nigerian state governor, past, present, and future, unless we do something about this, which is where folks like SERAP, come in, have significant business interests which have been built over the time that they were in office. When you also factor in the fact that almost nobody in Nigerian history who has become a state governor has been content with just serving the 2 terms for 8 years without pursuing electoral politics, further maybe at the Senate or at the House of Representatives, or if you're a political benefactor, if your political benefactor is someone significant, maybe an appointment, say at the National Assembly or something. So
let's see if we can take a very quick break.
98. So much of
Call
what you
Sam
like.
now. Please run.
So much of
Run.
what you need.
Sam will believe. Run.
Love music, love life.
Okay. Thing goes silent. Just give me a second. I need to check something.
all right.
Jide has just purchased everything Wife put down on the list. He now heads to the counter. The cashier looks at him. He brings out the Visa card and hands it over. Jide pays with his Visa card! And just like that, Jide might just win a trip to the 2018
major.
FIFA World Cup Russia
Is it
with a
back
partner.
No. Just if we're back in, please drive.
Pay with Visa across Nigeria and spend
But the signal still go out, like listeners will still be able to hear you.
Yes.
Okay.
It's fine now.
World Cup live in Russia and win other amazing prizes thanks to Visa. Visit www.visa.com.ng for details. Offer runs to 18th April 2018. Terms and conditions apply. Visa, worldwide partner of the 2018 FIFA World Cup Russia.
Lagos, are you ready?
The ARM Pensions Run for the Future is
Well, no, not really. It wasn't during a call.
14th of April,
It wasn't during a call at all.
Can
Can you give him your headphones?
Get free to burn calories. with
Okay, we're
free
back in now.
and
It's
have
studio.
a fantastic
Everyone, studio
time.
silence.
Register for- at www.armpension.com/RMTN. ARM Pensions. Tomorrow is looking good.
say just be on standby. It's really scary. It just kind of started flipping, and our voices weren't going out anymore. It was just the background. Just the background track. Enemies, they will not succeed. We're going to have this conversation. We must have this conversation. Okay, cool. We'll just keep listening.
We're good.
Cool. Oh, we're gonna see how it goes. Oh, I didn't finish tweeting. This is the correct SERAP handle. Is it at SERAP Nigeria?
Yes, I think so.
Okay, let me just double check it in another tab so that we don't tag somebody that is not.
Yeah.
What is black? Black breaks the rules. Black has no restriction.
Okay, this is what comes up.
Coca-Cola Zero Sugar. Black beats the price because you get the real Coca-Cola taste with zero sugar at a cool 80 naira for the 50 cl bottle and only 60 naira for the 35 cl bottle. Okay. That's how black runs things.
That looks appropriate. Yep, 20,000 followers.
Mm-hmm. Cool. That's them.
Legacies for everyone.
We need to mention other states briefly.
Of course.
Legacies for everyone. It's the sights, it's the sound, and yeah, the food too. You may go to the classy restaurants or even go to the fast food eatuaries where you could catch a burger and fries, but we still all get to meet at the local booker.
Okay, we're going back in
our sleeves and get busy.
studio. Let's hope for the best.
Place that taste of bokoto and fresh fish.
My name is Tunji Andrews. Love music, love life.
Love music, love life indeed. Tunji Andrews there, just rather excited about the broccata and fresh fish. But here we're excited because we have the Deputy Director of SERAP in the studio with us, Mr. Timothy Adewale. Good morning again, Mr. Timothy.
Thank you very much.
Fantastic. We also have the Chemist F Young in the studio with us. Hi, Chemist.
Hey, Folu. Hey, Lagos.
And just before the break, Chemist, you were talking about something. Please continue.
Yes. So I was saying, these governors, especially when they move on from their terms of office in their respective states, they have multiple streams of incomes. They have this deep-seated business interest. You are obviously earning, if you're looking at in the case of someone like Apadu, for example, or an Amici or a Saraki, you're earning something substantial
for life.
For being at the federal level. And so the entire idea of double emoluments, where you have a situation where essentially the public purse, and by extension the average Nigerian, is being charged twice, in some cases 3-4 times, on the account of one person to do work which we do not see any perceptible amount of impact or effect. It is a problem, it's a challenge, it is unconscionable to a large extent. And in a situation where many Nigerians have had to cut back over the last 2 years, we're talking about an economic recession, lots of people have lost their jobs, people have had to cut back on discretionary spending, people are having to reorder their finances in one way. I have a situation where an ex-something who would never be poor for the rest of his life is earning something significant for a former job that he did. Oh no, that's a lot.
I mentioned something in passing to Felu before we got on the show. I said if I were to contest for governor, just seeing these things have already been passed into law. Really, the monies that I'll be receiving after I leave office is enough distraction for me not to work while in office.
I mean, just remain in a holding pattern and then go out and then keep
keep getting things. Let's go to the phone line, see who has questions out there. Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
What's your name?
My name is Kimo. I'm currently in Ikeja.
Fantastic. Welcome to Lagos Talks 981. What question or comment do you have? Go ahead, please.
Thank you very much. I want to give you guys a very, very good social issue right on radio. It's very, very interesting. When I was growing up, so this topic takes me back to the time when I was growing up. I kept wondering why is it that during the elections, people who are vying for political positions are always like very violent. You hear them acquiring weapons and all of that. And I kept asking myself, is governance really that exciting? Like, is it by force to rule? Do we really care so much about this country that want to come and be governors or senators or presidents and all of that? Then when I got older, it struck me. It's like, going for prospecting and, you need to arm yourself properly so nobody takes what belongs to you or something like that. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Now, what the SERAP is doing right now, I believe,
and I really want them to succeed, it's going to, in the long run, make governance very, 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 very unattractive to people who don't have anything else to do but to go there and make money. So this move is really, really good. And all these monies that they're talking about actually goes to justify the reason why people have to be armed to the teeth to run for political office. Yeah.
Imal, thank you very much.
Thank you. All right. Any comments to that?
Yes, if you look at the impact, this have actually had, you discover that in Kwara State now, Kwara State is factually changed their law, to reflect this. And don't forget that the Senate President himself, Bukola Saraki, also commented on this to say, actually, to be frank, it's unconscionable for us to be receiving double emolument. And he has actually done something with respect to that. And recently too, we are getting feelers from other states too, that they are considering it with the fact that we just must do something. We cannot continue to do things like this. And
reacting to what he just said, pardon me, the Senate President, in his words, and I quote in that statement, he said, the moment I saw the SERAP allegation, I said, no, I'm not collecting pension. The moment I saw that allegation, I wrote to my state to stop my pension.
Okay.
So does that mean he was not aware of what he was entitled to?
We brought this to his attention that, I mean, look at it. You are receiving pay as the Senate President of this country. You're also receiving pay, your pension from your state. I mean, very commonsensical thing. You don't need anybody to tell you that this is wrong.
All right. Let's switch lanes a little bit now and move on to across our borders. Most recently, in fact, in a March 12th article, we've seen that the Socioeconomic Rights and Accountability Project, SERAP, has called on the African Union, the AU chairperson and president of Rwanda, Mr. Paul Kagame, to suspend the rights of membership of Cameroon now from the AU. This to end the alleged torture and ill treatment of at least 47 political activists that were forcibly returned to Cameroon by Nigerian authorities. Now, we know that this came out this month, this particular article, but a few months ago, we've been looking at rising issues between our border in Cameroon and Nigeria, and people crossing over into Boki local government quite a lot, and vice versa. Why did you feel this was something that SERAP had to get involved in? And is it really the role of a civil group to extend beyond the borders of Nigeria? This is another question.
Yes, don't forget, this is not the first time we are going to be intervening in issues that goes beyond the border of Nigeria. We've intervened before in Libya, we've intervened before in Gambia, we've stopped the killings of Nigeria in Gambia, we've stopped the execution of Nigeria in Libya, fact which the government of Nigeria can also testify to. Okay. You see, our intervention in this stems from the fact that 47 activists, Cameroon activists, when we say activists, we are not talking about militants. We're talking about professors, doctors, people of well repute in Cameroon. They were trying to determine the fate of their people, the Anglophone people in Cameroon. Yes. They came to Nigeria to have a meeting. And most of them, they also have Nigerian citizenship, although they are Camerooners anyway. They were in Abuja to have a meeting, to see the best way to protect the interests of their people. But lo and behold, the DSS ran them up, and before you know what happened, they were sent back into their country. And if you look at it, it's actually against the intention of the African Union Constitutive Act and a lot of our international obligations. And don't forget, SERAP is not the only one that said this is bad for Nigeria. United Nations also said, Nigeria, what you've done is bad. Yeah. A lot of international bodies are saying, and if you look at it, it's actually un-African. When a stranger comes into your house, you have things you're supposed to do to protect the stranger. You should be hospitable. As Africans, we are not hostile to our visitors. We are not hostile to our guests. And what Nigeria has done, people were here to have a meeting on the best interests of their people. The best thing we could do as a fellow African country is to deport those citizens back. And look at what is happening to them in Cameroon now. They are detained. Some of them enforced disappearance, torture, a lot of this allegation against the Cameroonian government. So you expect us to fold that one? We say we're not going to fold that one. So we wrote a letter to Paul Kagame. Okay. That Paul Kagame, you just cannot continue to allow things to go like this. You must do something.
So then what is the reaction right now of different governments, Nigerian government included, towards groups like SERAP, towards you? Because it's one thing to say, listen, this is not right, but then you take the matter further. You enter the courts that you need to enter to ensure that these things do not repeat themselves excessively, or at least governments think twice before moving in that direction. Do you feel any sort of pressure yourselves as a pressure group sometimes to step back from some of these cases, and how are the governments responding to SERAP?
Definitely, if you're on this terrain, there'll be instances like that. I don't forget, recently we just moved our office.
Why?
From where we used to be. you know, as a result of things like this. You
Okay.
know, every now and then you release a press statement. You see people issuing threats, people writing threat letters to us. There are times that our office have been boggled. You see people trying to hack into our system. People want to know what are they really up to. So it's not new, but if you are in a business like this, you must be prepared for that. But you must be sure that you are doing it in the best interest of the people and not for any personal gratification.
What's been the most recent backlash you've received due to your actions?
Well, it has always been people, you know, saying SERAP is being sponsored by this, SERAP is being sponsored by that. And the reason, don't forget, there have been politicians who wants to use our platform because of the credibility and our reputation. They've been wanting to use SERAP to say, Sarah, why don't you say something about me? I would say, sorry, that's not what we are for.
Lagos, call us up on 0144899981, or you can send in your messages to us on our WhatsApp number. It is 0809 4440981. We are streaming live on YouTube as well, so that you can watch what goes on here in the studio, and you can also leave your comments up on that YouTube channel. Let's see who's on the phone line.
Hello, good morning. Good morning, Mr. Sam, you're back. Okay,
all right, we'll see what we can do. Send us a WhatsApp message. I will talk to Mr. Timothy. If he's interested in sharing details, then he will do just that. We also have messages coming in, and as I read out the messages, I'm going to ask you a quick question, Mr. Timothy, to think about your response for that. If there are citizens who are interested in doing things like what SERAP is doing, what are some of the moves they can make? Just think about that and let us know, because it would also be interesting to let us know how SERAP really started. Now, Amos Akpan on WhatsApp sends in a message. He says, well done, SERAP. I appreciate your work. Little drops of water makes the ocean. Do not give up. This is obviously in reference to the court order on pensions, allowances for ex-governors, and the issue in Cameroon with the African Union. And we've got a lengthier message in from High Priest Herbert.
High Priest Herbert says, as much as SERAP is doing their best, however, their efforts might amount to nothing if reforms are not brought into our judiciary to make it more responsible and incorruptible to the Nigerian masses. So no doubt, the double pay of ex-governors who are now senators are outrageous and insensitive, but those ex-governors still have their friends who are still judges in the appeal and Supreme Courts. So we all know the judgment against them won't come soon. After all, the intentional stalling and adjournment in 5 years' time would all be tired of the case and forget about it. Is that going to be the case?
Yeah, if you look at what the CJ is doing now, honestly speaking, you believe that we are not where we used to be. You know, things are getting better.
All right. So what about the origins of SERAP, the start of this? With all the citizens out there who are saying they want to do something, they want to make sure their government doesn't continue to take them for a ride. I mean, most recently, the land use charge had a lot of citizens just up in arms and really upset. Again, to be fair to the Lagos state government, following the outcry, they did do their best to try and explain why certain things were done, what the process was. They said that, listen, there was a public hearing. The public were not just that interested in these particular topics at the time. They were more focused on whether or not churches should be taxed. I mean, what would you say to the citizen that's looking to ensure that their rights are not usurped?
For us, we believe in testing the laws. You know, a country might have very good laws. If you're not tested, no way you get them. So we encourage all citizens. You can't fold your hands and say nothing will happen. If we continue to say nothing will happen, nothing will happen. Yeah, and that's where we're in this sorry state we've got access into. Challenge the law, go to court and get the laws tested. You cannot have provisions that guarantees your rights. Chapter 4 of the Constitution is there. Nigeria is a party signatory to so many international human rights treaties. So we cannot just be traveling to Switzerland everywhere, signing all these conventions, treaties, and we say we are not ready to make them work. We need to make our government accountable to all these international instruments.
Thank you very much for that. We've got to take a very quick break. When we come back, there's still a few minutes left. We're going to continue the conversation with Mr. Timothy Adewale. He is in the studio, Deputy Director of SERAP. We also have Ikemesit Efyong, who's at Judge Ike up on Twitter, who's here in the studio with us. Of course, Valentine and myself are with you all the way through till 10 o'clock. Keep listening. And don't forget that at 9:40, we switch conversation lanes a little bit to talk a little bit about money and how you can make some. Yeah, this Afiz is like, how is SERAP funded? How can we donate to their laudable efforts? That's actually a good question, because obviously going to court, doing all these things, it does take up a lot of time. So is it something that you do full time? Is there private practice as well? Like how is this engine been able to continue running?
You know, we're 80% lawyers.
Okay.
So what we do is we want to have people that don't necessarily live on SERAP, so that assuming something happens to SERAP,
yeah, right.
Because we discover that if everything is seen on SERAP, then you can easily be compromised.
Yeah.
Me, of course, I'm the deputy director. I also have my own private practice. So assuming something happens to SERAP, then so it's not about that. For us, that's one of the best ways we protect our reputation.
Yeah.
You know, it's not everything that's why we don't necessarily go to prostrate before funders.
Yeah.
You don't fund us, we have things.
Yeah.
You know, I take all my family through. So the same thing happens to almost all our lawyers.
Okay.
You know, we encourage them to get themselves involved in private practice.
Yeah.
But as long as it does not conflict.
Okay. So this is sort of like a pro bono activity.
Yes, definitely.
Okay.
You know, so it's not like in your own private capacity we've been doing pro bono before. We've been challenging some of these things.
But you just came
police recklessness. For me, it has to do with maternal health, medical law, challenging doctors, you know, these crazy things.
Okay.
So they felt, guys, you're also doing something.
Yeah.
So we brought together guys, you know, that are so passionate about seeing reforms in the system.
Reforms in the system. Awesome. All right, cool. When we come back, we're going to look at that. Different reforms in the system. Excellent. Thank you very much, man, for coming in. Do you have a personal Twitter handle?
No.
No, that's fine. No wahala. We will stick with the SERAP one that we've put out.
You know, some of us are still backward. We are not this social media.
Sometimes, when you said it, I just thought, okay, maybe for security reasons.
It gets wild there sometimes.
Honestly.
It's a dangerous space. It's for business. Really, let's be honest. All sorts of funny things happen.
Don't forget people die every day in Nigeria.
Yeah.
Because we've seen it so for us, you see this life, people die every day. I give you the statistics, people that die Lagos, Ibadan, reckless, killing. So I mean, so we're just fortunate to be alive.
Oh, I was tying up a report for clients just last night, and I was looking at the latest number from the National Bureau of Statistics.
Studio guys. And we are back in. It's a final few minutes of this particular conversation here on the look at that. Lagos Talks 91. It's not sports, guys. We're talking very serious stuff. Civil groups. SERAP is in the studio with us via its deputy director, Mr. Timothy Adewale, and we've been talking about the role of civil rights groups and their responsibility, sort of in holding the government accountable and making sure government just sort of stick within the rules, or we test their laws. That was what you said, right, Timothy? Testing the laws to see that it works. Okay, and now we know you've been involved in a number of areas. One of the other articles or issues you just sort of wanted to talk about as well very quickly comes in from the Vanguard newspaper. It was also the 19th March. 19th of March, there you go. Declaring herdsmen as terrorists. So there was an open letter written to the UN Security Council and members urging them to hold a special session on Nigeria to visit the country to press the authorities to end continuing killings and destruction of property by suspected herdsmen across Nigeria, particularly in the north central of the country. They want to treat the atrocities by herdsmen as terrorist acts. But here's a question, Timothy. These are quote unquote suspected herdsmen? Herdsmen to me, and this is just being based on the definition of that, right, is a whole class. It feels like saying let's hold carpenters as terrorists. How would this work out in practice? How are we saying that we're going to hold the organization Mieti Ala Cattle Breeders Association, which is the only body, as far as I understand, that really sort of represents that? What was SERAP's motive sort of doing this, and how do you expect it to play out?
You know, don't forget, it also has to do with the accountability work.
Yes.
You cannot hold yourself to say, I am your president, and yet you cannot protect the life of the people. Don't forget, the chapter 2 said of the Constitution says the foremost and primary duty of government is the protection and security of lives and property. So the moment you cannot do that, then I wonder, who are we? I when people takes oath to say, I will do this without fear or favor, to defend, to protect, you hold your Quran or your Bible before men, before you know. So we just keep saying all these things without actually putting it into action. I know there's one thing we keep telling people. The greatest text of every commitment is your action. You cannot say you have the best interest of the people attacked. And look at what, I mean, just look at this. Every night, you know, there's a particular family that will look at an empty space on their dining table because a particular kid is missing. You can imagine the number of empty rooms we are going to be having because some kids are. So we just cannot continue to fold our hands. If the government is not ready to do something, should we say, well, government is not doing anything? Well, we can actually appeal to United Nations, and that's actually what we've done.
Okay. Okay.
In this climate, sorry, before I come to you, Kemesit, most people just believe that in Nigeria, when you want to force a change or trigger a certain series of events that would lead to a change, a positive change, you go one step forward, 10 steps back. I know you have an idea. In your move to cause these changes in Nigeria, how much progress would you say you've recorded so far?
Enormous progress. Internationally, and in Nigeria, enormous impact. For us, it's more of the impact we are making. It's not just about the works we are doing. The first thing is, are we making impact? Are we really achieving anything? We cannot just be going there and there without achieving impact. So we focus more on the impact. And the greatest impact is this: we are much more concerned with the socio-economic lives of Nigeria. And that's why we are into accountability, because the greatest impediment to the socio-economic lives of Nigeria is corruption. So we felt if the people's wealth are not being spent judiciously and managed efficiently, there's no way it's not going to affect the socio-economic life of Nigeria. And that's exactly why we are doing what we are doing.
Yeah. So those are all fine and fantastic. So in my line of work as a researcher, I found out that while there seems to be a lot of focus on the federal government, for example, what goes on at the federal level and in Abuja, the states, especially at the governorship, the subnational levels, they're oftentimes left behind. The average Lagosian, the average Nigerian doesn't know his local government chairman, doesn't know the person representing his constituency in the State House of Assembly or in the Federal House of Assembly, or let alone the Senate, and all of that stuff. So what kind of work does SERAP do to engage with this subnational government? I know you've done some work with highlighting the issue of financial accountability of state governors, but what are some of the other key things where your organization has made interventions?
Let me just use Lagos as an example. For the guys in SERAP, it's just a matter of saying things and doing something. It's not about saying things and you fall down to say you just complain. We are not the complaining type. We say things and we just act. For example, we just studied a case against Lagos State government. It happened, these hospitals, private hospitals in our environment. Each time you see small burns, you take a patient there, they say they can't do it, go to loot. Snake bite someone, they say they don't have antivenom. And you begin to wonder, then who are you? I mean, who licensed you to be an hospital?
So what are you suing Lagos for?
We are suing Lagos because we want to know. See, most of these private hospitals, they will have Lagos State government approved. And yet for even small things, they cannot treat it. So we are suing Lagos to say, see, you need to let us know. Why are these people really there? And now recently, we are filing one now against people who say Lagos is too dirty. And you don't expect us for that one. Because it violates United Nations General Comment 14 on people's right to attainable standard of health and all those things. So we are not the type that we see dirt everywhere. You come to my place in Adewale Egba, you go to almost everywhere. Because the government has a responsibility to the people. If we are trying our best to be as healthy as much as possible, and government is not supporting that, you look at dead feet everywhere. So should we for that ones? We're actually finding a case, for us, we believe it affects the people's fundamental right to health.
This is so interesting because we are going to have a Visionscape coming through next week to actually talk about just this. Because we feel that it is also a very important thing, and we, the people, have a right to understand and know why the streets of Lagos now more than ever seem to have regressed back to 20 years ago when we were seeing rubbish absolutely everywhere. But we will be having them in as well just to sort of clear the air and understand their positions.
Yomi here on WhatsApp is asking, what's the full meaning of SERAP? Yomi, it's Socio-Economic Rights and Accountability Project.
Yeah.
That's what I mean.
It's that straightforward. We've just got a couple more minutes, so if you want to call in, now is a good time, and we've got probably the final call for this morning.
Hello, good morning. Good morning. What's your name and where are you calling from?
Good morning. What's your name? Where are you calling from? Sociable, please speak up a little bit, but go ahead. Sociable, we cannot hear you. That's a little better. Sociable, I'm so sorry. That call was simply not good enough to take. Let's try this one.
Good morning. Good morning.
Fantastic. Bolahan, is that you?
The SERAP is looking as well in the public enlightenment space. I think the fight against corruption and social injustice as well needs an inclusiveness. It needs a lot of people. It needs the public enlightenment. It needs people to be aware of what their rights are. I just wonder what they're doing to enlighten and despise the masses as well.
All right. So
okay, go ahead.
Yeah, first we have a research and publications unit. That unit, their main responsibility is to make sure that whatever information we're going to put in public domain, there must be the factual truth, because we believe so much in credibility and because of our reputation. So of course we do advocacy. We do research first, then we do advocacy around our publications, because those publications help the citizens to see exactly what is happening. They are right, and how they can continue to hold government accountable.
how can they ORG?
Yes.
Okay.
Right.
All right.
Okay. And on that note, we've pretty much come to the end. We've literally just got 1 minute left. Let's see if we can take that last phone call very, very quickly. Hello, good. A sentence.
When you win in the first,
We have
With the Adewale for
I can't.
actually, we can't take a picture. We don't have